Hello, Martin. How are you?
I'm doing well, Ralph. And you?
Excellent. Everything is hunky-dory.
Good. So, what is on your wrist?
Today I have the big guns out. I am wearing the disco watch, the Sky Dweller.
Disco Volante.
Sky Dweller in two-tone with a fluted,
yes.
Of course, fluted pedal.
That is a super bling watch, I have to say. And especially because you have the black dial.
Yeah.
And it was like a black lacquer dial.
Yeah.
And it just reflects light like no other. And
it is really the pompous watch, the big trousers watch.
It's cool though. It's cool for that reason alone. I am also wearing a black lacquer dial Rolex, but it's the Explorer. Yes, of course.
Yes.
The Explorer 36. Fun fact. Oh, this is the modern Explorer. The 124270, I believe it is. 124270. Yes. 36 millimeter. Now, there's a big discussion going on. I saw on one of the forums, I think it was the Rolex forum, somebody asked, should I buy an Explorer or should I buy a 36 millimeter black dial OP?
Yeah.
Because apparently the Explorer costs about 5,000 dirhams more than the OP, which ultimately is the same exact watch. And people were, of course, everyone was chiming in, and it was very split. It was very 50-50 of which one you should go for. Ultimately, I don't know if it's worth an extra 5K, because if we look at the two watches, they're both a 36 millimeter case. They both have a brushed stainless steel oyster bracelet, right? What are you gaining by buying the Explorer? One, you get a safety clasp on the bracelet.
Yeah.
Two, you get a Mercedes hand.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. You get the 369 loomed, indices.
Yeah.
And ultimately you get a different bezel. Instead of the domed bezel, you're getting a flat bezel. That's it. Is this worth 5,000 dirhams to you?
Yeah, it's purely, I think, aesthetic. You have the same movement in it. I think the whole thing that the Explorer was a bit more rugged from a movement perspective as well. It's gone now.
But that's not the case. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think it's really purely aesthetic. If that design means so much more to you, then yes. But I think
it's a very interesting case.
Yeah, I think the Oyster Perpetuals are already like these Gada watch, right? The go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah, they are. And that's what I'm thinking is okay. So for me, of course, I wanted the Explorer. I did not pay extra to get an Explorer because I bought mine. I think it was like 6 months old.
Yeah.
I bought it secondhand. Somebody said it was too small for them. And I paid like well under like 5,000 dirhams under list price at that time during peak COVID. So it was an insane deal to begin with. And even at that time, I think I paid roughly what an Explorer what a OP36 would have cost at the time.
Okay.
So I roughly paid OP money for my Explorer. But if I was sitting there and let's say hypothetically, both watches were available in the showroom, I would have a very tough time deciding between the two of them, I think.
Yeah.
And the OP, of course, does have 20 millimeter lugs, which makes it look a little wider than the Explorer. The Explorer has narrow 19 lugs, so it looks a little bit more tapered. But I don't know. Is it worth it? Who knows?
I don't know either, but I think, the Explorer is a very classic look, right? So you have this...
but both are. The OP is a very classic look.
But they have now the double indices, right?
And that's one of the things that I'm not a huge fan of. I don't mind double indices on my Grand Seiko, for instance. But for some reason here with the double loomed indices, it's a little much.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit much.
I'm not 100% sure about this.
I like the single indices. So the two OPs that I really liked were the 39s. And there's two versions of the 39s. One had only the indices at 369.
Yeah.
If you recall, the Lume was only 369.
Yeah.
And then the other one that came afterwards, for like 1 year it was out, had the full 12-hour loomed, like Datejust style stick indices.
Yeah.
And both of those were stunning. So when they did the new versions, the 1-2 series, Then they did the double indices on 369.
Correct.
It just
this is rare, right? That Rolex does this for only like a year or two, right? When they had these black and white colors for the old version, and then came out with
exactly.
the new version.
And I have a picture at an AD in 2019 with a lineup of every color 39 millimeter OP. They were all available at the AD. The new ones, of course, were only the white and black.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? They had the grape, blue, and what's the name of the gray? I forget.
Rhodium.
Those three were the originals, right?
Yeah.
And then they had no black and no white at the time. They only had those three colors in the 39. And then, of course, they added the two, which were different because they did the different indices. So super weird.
Yeah, I had the blue one, right? For a while.
Yes,
and
with the green Lume, or sorry, not Lume plots, but the little green dots or squares.
It was. I
think that was super cool.
It was quirky, but then I sold it for
and then the rhodium had blue, and the blue. So the green that you had was not Rolex green either.
No. It was a bit
squares,
more like
a
some
neon green,
like a text marker green. It was really very funky for Rolex.
And then the if I'm not mistaken, the grape had orange.
Yes, and I think the rhodium had something like pinkish or something, right? Wasn't it?
No, it was blue. It was very light, like sky blue.
Yes, blue. The grape was more pinkish. It wasn't really orange. It was more pinkish. Yeah,
it was like a salmon, maybe.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was so cool. I mean,
yes, and now they're still trading for way above their retail price.
I saw one for 35 listed, a blue one the other day,
which is insane because they cost about 21. List price, and you could get them for 19.
No, 18. You got them for 18 was what a friend of mine bought it for at MOE with the discount, of course. Yeah. So now they're going for 35 and secondhand. Good friend of mine, he bought his blue one at Timepiece 360 for $13K.
Yeah.
And of course it was, he bought it for 13. Then he changed his mind, said he wanted a Datejust 36 instead. And he sold it to Timepiece for $10K.
Oh,
I still make fun of him for this.
But this was a 39, right? That he sold.
39 blue. Okay. Yeah. Same as yours.
Yeah.
So $10K he sold it for.
Yeah. That's the thing. So the way you can really at that time.
But I remember 10K used to be a lot of money. Right? Used to in the sense that 10K was like...
these watches were available in the store. So you had the same situation like everywhere. If you wanted to buy it, you would lose about 25-30%.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, that's, like the Tudor money, right?
Pre-owned. Yeah, totally. It was Tudor money. So we are living... I mean, I bought mine for about 12 on a business trip. And I think I told the story before, so I'm not boring, and I sold it for 14, and then eventually a year later this watch went to 28 and more.
Yeah,
which was
but this is the thing is you look at it like you sold it for 14.
Yeah, in
today's mind, would you sell a Rolex for 14K?
Tough. There has to be a really vintage
you keep
one.
it.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying is for this watch you would just end up keeping it because it wouldn't make any sense to sell it. And me looking back at it, like unless there was some reason that I truly hated the color or the watch, it wouldn't be worth it to sell. Yeah. Right. So
yeah. So for me, it was also
it's like my Grand Seikos. I told you, if I tried to sell my Grand Seikos right now, I would lose
so much,
a big chunk of money. And it's not worth it. Like I'm going to get 10K for it. For that much money, I'll just keep it in the collection. There's no reason to sell it.
Yeah. If you don't need the money for something else, then definitely keep it. Yeah.
Exactly. But, this is, we have,
by the way,
going back to the regrets episode, right?
Yeah. I have made the decision to reduce my collection. I have to sell stuff. So I want to have a 10 watch collection by the end of the year. And that is
without G-Shocks.
Yes, without counting these. G-Shocks.
Yeah, we don't count G-Shocks, of course.
Yeah. But and I don't count my Tissot PRX or something like that. Just for my main watch box, the 24 slots that I have. Well, it's not all heavy hitters, obviously. There's also some Longines and Montblanc and Seikos in there. But
those are going to stay in the box? Or are you going to count those outside of the box?
No, these will be counted. So I want to have 10 watches. So that means that 14 have to go from that. That's going to be a big challenge. Yeah. So let's see.
Yeah. So okay, let's play this. Let's just start going quickly. What are your top picks that are going to stay?
I am pretty sure.
I'm going to do fingers. Let's go.
Yeah, the Explorer 2 will stay. The Sky Dweller will stay. The Moser will likely stay. The Glashütte Original has to stay because it's a present from my wife, so I'm not going to sell that. I'm pretty sure the Zenith will stay.
Which one? Don't you have two?
No, I have one.
No, you only have the tenth of a second one, right?
Right. The Zenith will stay. Then I think my Pelagos 39 will stay. I'm pretty sure that I want to, keep my old Hamilton because one of my first luxury.
I wouldn't say that. We wouldn't count that. We'll put this with the Tissot.
True, because
TRXs.
Also selling it would give me 200 dirhams. So.
You get 500 dirhams if you're lucky.
So no. So then
a Blanc Pawn?
Yeah, that will stay, I think.
So you have two more.
Two more, then I will probably keep the IWC Chrono, the Portofino Chrono. And that's tough then, right? I think I don't even remember exactly what's in my watch box.
What you have.
See, this is tough.
But yes, okay. So you have an idea. You have a game plan.
There's then two Tudors that have to go, right? So there's the GMT, Steel and Gold,
and the Black Bay 58 bronze.
Yeah. Then there's the Bremont that can go. Then there is
that can go.
Then there's my vintage Omega that I want to keep, the 1973, the blue one with the gold plated case.
Oh, what about what's it called? What about the Seamaster?
Yeah. That would have to go, right? I can't, Or maybe I sell the IWC and keep the Seamaster. So I have to do thinking. Unpack. I have to do a lot of thinking because a couple of them are somehow attached to me. But I think the initial idea was to just, cut it by half, so 12. Then I said, well, 12, I can also do 10. But maybe I remove this and say, okay, 12. Selling 12 is already a good start.
Well, what if you sold 12? Or let's say in this case, you want to sell even more. You want to sell 14. Let's say you sell 15. And then you put all that money together and buy one massive banger of a watch.
I don't know.
And then that will be your 10th one.
Possible. Also an interesting idea. I have to
get some. Keep 9 out of the collection.
Do some soul searching there, but I think definitely a couple of them have to go. Yep. Also, just need to, at some stage, also put some more money for pension and old age and whatever, all of this stuff.
The watches are the pension. The watches are the pension. Every month you sell one, and that's how you live.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you can sell them and buy food when
that
you
is
need
true.
to.
Yeah, no.
Right, and you don't sell them until you're old. But right, that's kind of the idea.
True, but they also don't appreciate in value. So that's a bit of a challenge there with that, right? If you put the money in the savings or some shares and stocks, funds or whatever, then at least they make money. They increase in value, ideally.
Yep.
So let's see.
So all right, it's a good talk. No, I'm also itching to buy. I want to buy something. I really want a Tudor, but unfortunately, as many of you know, there's no Tudor that I really love at the moment, right? I've tried every single one and I've sold every single one.
Yeah, I would say, I have a hunch that this September we might see something. Or maybe later.
Yeah, I think so.
Because they don't have fixed release schedules anymore. So maybe in November, maybe after this one only watch auction in August, in October, maybe we see something new because they have this new the new chronograph, with only watch, the solid gold.
Yes,
one.
Correct.
I think they might just get this out as a just permanent collection chronograph with their own in-house developed chronograph movement. So I guess this is a restart with a like the Tiger chronograph that they had. The 9728.
The big block.
Yeah, the big block, small block. This was good. This could be it.
But now, ultimately, what I'm waiting for, I want a blue dial Tudor of some sort. I don't know what it's going to be. If it's going to be the vintage style, Black Bay 54, and they do a blue dial of that, or maybe a blue dial of a Pelagos 39.
But
let's see.
But is the blue? That's also one of the things that I might think we might see this in the end of the year. A blue dial Pelagos 39.
Well, we expected a blue dial Pelagos 39 last year. It didn't come. And we got the Black Bay 54 instead.
Yeah.
So now it's time for something blue, because ultimately, if you ask me what color is Tudor, I think it's blue, right? Blue is the iconic Tudor dial color, blue snowflake. So meanwhile, somebody on our Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups that we're on, I saw them list and I was very, very drooling over it. 1975 Tudor snowflake.
Oh, right. You mean
it was insane. No date.
You say snowflake.
Black dial.
You mean the
snowflake
Submariner, yeah.
Yep. So the one with the square indices. Black dial, perfectly patinaed.
Yeah.
Very nice looking. So the black dial had turned brown. The bezel had ghosted almost all the way.
Yeah.
So, it looked fantastic. And he was asking, for like $39K, which is
it's a lot,
a big chunk of money to buy a 55 or whatever, however old it is now, a 50-year-old.
When was it? 1975?
75, yeah.
Yeah, then it's not yet 50 years old, but okay.
It's going to be 50 in a couple of years. But ultimately a 50-year-old Submariner. Okay. But
no, I think that's it's a lovely watch, and I think I had a few subs from Tudor on. I've seen a few floating around a couple of years ago, and I've never really. And there's some rare ones that have like 39 or 40 millimeters, right? But they were not very. There's not too many.
Had some that were 36.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of them in 36, subs. But then there was also a big size one, but it was only very, very short time, I think. Or was there? Never was. I don't know.
No, I think they were 37 at the beginning.
Yeah.
Then they split into 40, and 36 was mid-size, I think, somewhere around there.
They had a mini size as well. A mini size sub.
The mini was 36,
No, I think they had a smaller
one. That was the mini.
One, no?
They called it the mini sub.
Mini sub, okay.
I believe.
Micro-sub.
Correct me if we're wrong, by the way.
Anyway, somehow remember there was even a smaller one, yeah.
These used to be 20K watches, and now they're 40. And I'm just, thinking it's only going to go up from here too.
Most likely, because there's less and less available, right?
Mm-hmm. And this one looked beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
Yep.
So let me, all right. So now,
what is our main topic today?
Our main topic today, besides all of our chit chat here, is open versus closed casebacks.
Yes.
And what do we think about them? Because ultimately, I am, I wouldn't say I'm super, I have both in my collection.
Yeah.
One second, I pulled up the Submariner for you.
Okay.
And I wanted to show you. Guys, if you search on Chrono 24, it's on Chrono as well. Just put in Tudor Submariner and set your location to UAE. This is the only one. You can take a look at just the aging and the patina on this. It's super creamy looms, ghosted bezel. This has the Rolex signed clasp.
Yeah.
The Rolex signed, I don't know if how you can see that. The crown as well as Rolex. The caseback is Rolex. It says original Rolex on the caseback.
Yeah, if you ever get this watch serviced, as you know my history, I had a Rolex signed Tudor watch that I gave to service, and they replaced it with a Tudor crown. Oh yeah,
so this is kind of the issue
because otherwise
and this is also
water resistant anymore. Oh, with a Tudor rose, yeah.
Is it a rose signed dial? So
very nice.
Sorry, not 39, 29K. 29K.
That's why we.
So I think it's. And I was really, I was thinking, okay, what would I sell to buy this? But it's scary. Anyway, all right, back to our open versus closed.
Open versus closed casebacks.
So I'm not, I'm very vocal about date windows. I'm very vocal about a bunch of stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I don't care about open versus closed casebacks. I'm okay with both.
See, that's the thing, which I don't understand in the watch world. I think it's a bit of confirmation bias. If you have a lot of Rolexes, because Rolexes were always without display caseback historically, except some rare.
Recently.
Yeah, but or also some rare exceptions like until 2015. What was it called? The Prince.
The Cellini Prince.
Cellini Prince, the square one that had a actually display caseback and actually quite attractive looking movement. But these and that's a good sleeper watch, I think. A square Rolex in precious metal, you can get them for about $10,000 to $15,000 with a see-through caseback and a very interesting movement on the back, manual wound. That's rare. This combination in itself.
So it's not an oyster nor a perpetual.
Yeah, exactly. So it's weird. Anyhow, but I think it's a coping mechanism, right? That people saying like, oh, I don't really want these casebacks because my favorite brand doesn't offer them. You know what I mean? Sometimes
it could be. So I'm looking at it like it does not influence my decision. There's one time and one way that I don't like open casebacks. And that is when the movement is too small for the case. I can give you a slew of examples. I loved the Tudor, the gold and silver Tudor Black Bay 58s. Yeah. Both of them have open casebacks. Both of them look ridiculous. It's like a 25 millimeter movement in a 39 millimeter case.
I think it was
tiny.
Sort of okay with the silver one. I had the silver one for a while. It was sort of okay, not the most ideal one. I agree with you, but I think it was sort of okay.
It sells on a NATO strap that then covers it.
No, the NATO strap is in the box, but it doesn't. You don't.
No, the NATO strap was the one. That one is the one you either got on leather or on NATO.
Correct. Yeah. Correct,
so if you chose the NATO option, you don't even see, because remember, you can't move that. The NATO strap Tudor gives you. It's spring barred in.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can't even see it.
You have to remove the spring bar. Yeah, that makes no sense. That's true. But you know what?
But I think the reason they did it because it was patina. It was a patina. It would patina on against your wrist.
Yeah, but look, my Black Bay 58 bronze doesn't have a display caseback, and it doesn't have a bronze caseback either.
It has a stainless steel.
Yeah.
So why didn't they do that on the other ones, the precious metal?
I don't know. Anyhow, but I think like the North Flag, one of the first I think it was the first in-house movement from Tudor, right? That they used,
yes,
and
yes,
it had the display caseback. And a lot of people said, well, but it's a very industrial looking movement. There's nothing really to see. And I agree with that. That movement was not actually very, very pretty, right?
So that one it somehow aesthetically it worked. It was not super small. The movement it flowed with the case. It had an integrated lug design or integrated bracelet design.
Yeah.
It just for some reason it looked all right. But if you compare that, in my opinion, to the silver one, it looks ridiculous how tiny this movement is.
True. Yeah, did they use a different movement in it? No, they did. Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
They did. They used a smaller movement because the the North Flag used the first in-house, which was the big Black Bay 41, and the Pelagos 42 both used it.
Right.
It was a big, chunky movement. Then they went Black Bay 58, smaller movement, and that's the one those had, and those were tiny. Yeah.
But so I think in general, you don't see the open caseback if you wear the watch, period. Nobody sees the movement, right? Because it's on your wrist.
But then what's the point of showing it off? Why would I want to look at something that looks like that?
It's purely for the owner. And that's why I think it's always, it's nice to be there. But if you're wearing the watch, it doesn't have to be there. If you want a specifically slim case, I think they say a display caseback adds at least 1 millimeter.
Yes,
to the
correct,
watch,
as well.
Right? So,
yeah.
All right, you can't make super slim cases with a display caseback unless you are sacrificing a bit of the thinness.
So there's a few other times that so the same issue happened to me when I bought, a long, long time ago, I bought an AP Royal Oak 15400.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 41 millimeter, I believe it was, size. And the movement is absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
I agree with you. The small movements. And I think that Polaris, for example, from JLC, that was also one of the watches I really, really like. The Polaris as a sporty JLC. And the moment I turned it around and I thought, that movement is too small for the case. It has this weird sloping down spacer in it that for me makes it look really, really annoyingly small.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm looking at it now, and it is also very small.
I don't know if they would have created the case a bit different. This makes it even look smaller. I don't know why.
It does. It does.
Sometimes you can do lots of engraving around it that it looks a bit different, but yeah.
So so in this case, we can say there's a lot of them that we hate.
Yeah.
Now, who has done open casebacks well? So first thing that comes to my mind, Along in Zona is always end to end, right?
100%, yeah.
But at that price point, of course, it better be. Yeah. But on a cheaper scale, just a regular Speedy, if you go for the Sapphire Sandwich,
very nice as well. Yeah.
That is a stunning movement to look at.
I think you're saying like the caseback's done well or the actual movement's done well?
No, the caseback is wall-to-wall glass, meaning the movement extends all the way to the edge of the case. So the caseback, quote unquote, is all glass, as opposed to the ones we've mentioned now, which is half metal and half glass.
I think usually you have to go to these not to the volume sellers, right? So I like, for example,
But Speedmaster is volume seller.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and yet it still is stunning.
I like the caseback on my Seamaster 300. It's nice.
Now that you mention it, most Omegas,
but then
have excellent movement to case size ratios.
Yeah, or they have a very clever way of actually making it look big. You know, you have the case, then you have the screwed in case back, a few millimeters smaller. That has a big enough ring. And then you have actually the glass and the movement filling it. So it does look a bit, I think, personally, it makes it look bigger than it maybe if you choose to have a different design.
And this is fine. This is fine. Yeah. So Glashütte does this on the Senator 60s. They have edge-to-edge glass.
Yeah.
Even though the movement is not edge-to-edge.
Yeah.
They show you the full case back in glass, and then you even see the winding stem or the crown stem.
Yeah.
So everything. I mean, it's a really, really cool looking.
The other one, of course, my
way of doing this.
My Glashütte Pano Reserve is very, very cool. It has a beautiful with a golden micro rotor and all of the double swan neck and the engravings and all of the stuff. It's beautiful and big. Fits the 39 or 40 millimeter case. My Blancpain, the 50 fathoms, even though it's a big watch, I think it also has a big enough movement in it, the 13-15 movement with the 120 hours power.
So I'll show you the Glashütte real quick. This is how they did. It's a full glass.
Okay. So
you see the movement is smaller.
Actually, yeah.
But you see the spacer, you see everything.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
Right? They're not trying to hide the fact that the movement is smaller.
Yeah, maybe they want to show off that you get a full metal, super nice spacer in there.
Yeah,
rather than plastic, you know?
The plastic, yeah.
The history of that, yeah. But yeah, that's... so I think in general, even if the movement... I mean, when I was young... Oh, not young. I wasn't young. When I was in the beginning of my watch collection journey, or even, as a young kid, seeing that movement is just mind-blowing. Right? Seeing all of these little things ticking and the balance spring moving and all of this stuff. That's why I think, you know, the swatches that were skeletonized or had the mechanical one that had actually a case back and you could see the rotor and all of this stuff, even though they were very, very basic automatic movements, they were still fascinating for people. The Seiko 5s, right? All have display case backs. Very cheap watches.
No.
Well, most of them.
Because technically the SKX was a part of Seiko 5 and that didn't have an
but I mean, not the divers, the Seiko 5 range generally.
The regular Seiko 5 line all did, yes.
Yeah. And they are not...
And even those movements were too small for the case, by the way.
Yeah, but but still people liked to see that because it's like, wow.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, right? those were decent size. I don't remember flipping one of those around and saying, wow, it's too small.
True. But now that I'm, you know, a bit matured and in watch collecting. And I must say if I have a really, really nice watch and it doesn't have a display case back, I I would like a really nice watch with a display caseback. I wouldn't want to buy a Royal Oak, for example, without a display caseback. I was looking recently as an overseas second generation, and I felt, this doesn't have a display caseback, right? So if it's like a Vacheron, so then I would really like to see the movement, because it is a beautiful.
My JLC doesn't have an open caseback.
True. But there as well, I mean, obviously, you with a reversal, you can actually have the caseback in the, and flip it over,
and then flip it and see it. Exactly.
Some watches have that, yeah.
But I wanted of course, I wanted monoface. I'm trying to think if I have anything with a cool movement. I guess my Cartier, you cannot see the movement.
No.
Cartier doesn't generally do open casebacks. Even on the nice Piaget Mécanique movements, they don't show.
No, they have very few of the higher horology pieces that actually do that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I have quite a few open casebacks, and I really, really enjoy them. And I really take my loop to the movements every now and then, or the macro camera sometimes, and just really look into it, because it is really, really beautiful to see. Especially when you have decorated movements, when you see the little, the anglage and how they polished the bridges and everything is nice and smooth, and how they did the corners of it, right? Sometimes these really tight corners, and how they are differently decorated or finished in certain watches. Sometimes even just the rotor. If you see the rotor of my Blancpain 50 Fathoms, it's like 5 different surface finishes on it. I think they spent more time getting that rotor decorated than Rolex spends building a watch.
Probably
in a comparison, because it's so highly mechanized and automated, right? I think nothing much in a Rolex watch is basically handmade. It's hand assembled, right, to a certain extent.
But there's no hand finishing.
Yeah, but no hand finishing. Yeah. Well, you can do great machine finishing, as you can see. All the Omega watches are hand finished, and they're still nicely finished, right?
Machine finished.
Machine finished, and not hand finished. Yeah. And they still look nice. So yeah, I think generally, except the 1 millimeter additional height, a see-through caseback doesn't have any drawbacks, unless you might consider also if you don't have these anti-magnetic properties. In older watches, it can mean that you have, of course, you're a bit more prone to magnetism, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With a display caseback. But
excuse me. Looking at these display casebacks, as you said, it adds a millimeter, but ultimately, there's this argument that people say that it detracts from the water resistance of the watch, which is absolute nonsense.
Why would it?
A lot of people are afraid of this because they think that you have glass in metal, which is another crystal, which if you just had a plain caseback, it would be one less failure point. Then this, of course, is disproven by the Ploprof, which is 1,200 meters or 1,500 meters water resistance with a display caseback. Mm. So you cannot argue that this is going to make or break your desk diving.
I agree. And in any case, this is a very irrelevant question for normal, water sports or diving that we do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Anybody doesn't matter. Yeah.
So for me, the only watches in my collection that have display casebacks are the Grand Seikos. I also like looking at them. I much prefer the manual wind over the automatic, because the automatic, of course, you cover the rotor covers half the movement.
Yeah.
But in the manual wind, you see everything. And ultimately, they're the same movement. One's manual, one's automatic, though. So without the addition of that rotor, the manual, just is a much more stunning to look at movement. So generally, if I'm looking at something with a loop, I do like looking at that one.
Yeah.
And once again, the finishing is hand finished. Everything is hand done.
Yeah, but
it's not finished to the extent that a Langenzonen would be, but still.
That's for me sometimes the shame of having these beautiful movements covered. When for example, the Vacheron Constantin has a golden rotor with 3 different or 4 different surface finishes and all of this stuff, or it has these polished bridges and everything else is super nicely decorated, and you can't see it.
Yeah.
As an owner, of course, sometimes you will never see it. Only the watchmaker will see it when he services your watch.
What is it, John Goldberger, who takes a butter knife and just pops off the caseback of his vintage Rolexes. Have you seen this on Talking Watches? He's doing the Talking Watches with Ben Clymer, and he's sitting there, and he's got or I don't know who he's doing it with, but he's got a knife, just like a butter knife, and they were at some.
No, these are the
boulangerie,
the knives.
And he literally, no, this is a plain butter knife.
Oh, okay.
And he literally, it's sitting in a bowl of butter.
Oh, okay.
And he takes the butter knife, wipes it on his blazer sleeve, takes it and just pops off the case back to some Daytona.
So remind me not to buy a watch
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
This is kind of cool. But he's popping off these casebacks left and right.
Yeah.
But ultimately, coming down to this, I'm going to use a analogy from Top Gear, older Top Gear. Jeremy Clarkson said they were test driving a bunch of sports cars, and he had if I'm not mistaken, I think it was him or Richard Hammond. One of them had the Corvette ZR1.
Yeah.
The previous generation, which had the V8 in the front, and there was a small little glass window on the hood, and you could see the engine. But of course, this is maybe half a meter by a quarter of a meter. It's a very small window, and all you can see is it said ZR1 or something like this. So you're not seeing anything but the plastic engine shroud. Meanwhile, in the Ferraris, you have in the rear engine Ferraris, you have the big glass canopy that shows you everything. And they were arguing, why do you have this piece of glass on your hood? And I think it was Richard Hammond was saying, because, Ferraris have it. And Jeremy Clarkson said, well, Ferraris are made by craftsmen in Maranello, and your car is built by a fat guy in Kentucky. So it's the exact same thing, right? This is the Seiko equivalent, right? This is machine finished. It has nothing to do. It's not really going to look good. So what's the point of showing it off, right?
Yeah.
But if it's highly crafted by experienced, and good craftsmen, then you should show it off.
But aren't we in the car world as well a bit annoyed by all of these plastic covers that are now covering the engines for no particular reason?
No, because I don't see the oil leaking that way. It covers the oil leak.
But we are always
because I told you I had this oil leak on top of my engine. When you have the hood, the plastic, you can't see it. It looks clean.
So
you take it off, you see the oil spill. And you're like, I should fix this right now. But if it's on there, I forget about it.
Yeah, so. I always feel like when I look at sometimes, yes, you see all of this stuff, V8, FSI, whatever, on my
written
covers.
on it,
But you think, well, is it a particular beautiful engine? Probably not. But, we didn't used to have these plastic covers on engines.
And this takes me back to the time that there's still a few brands that still look great. So, for instance, Alfa still makes beautiful. No, I think Alfa stopped doing it. Maserati still does it.
In some Alfa Romeos,
Maserati still has the beautiful cover, right? The red engine covers. They're not covers. They're technically
painted.
The aluminum headers or something that you can see that they've
glossy
given this
paint,
texture to. Yeah, it's a red paint. So there's a few car companies.
Yeah, I think you can still see some nice engines, but it's a priority. Right?
Rare.
It's rare. Yeah. And I remember
what the whole purpose of this plastic
in one of my first cars, Opel Kadett. It had
which we talked about in the Who's Ralph episode.
Yeah. And it had 1 point. I mean, that was not my car; it was my mom's car, and it has a 1.1 liter engine at the time, 55 horsepower. And when you opened the hood, you thought somebody stole the engine because it was so tiny. It was sitting somewhere in the bottom of the engine bay, and you thought, oh, where is it? Yeah, that was the old days. But now everything is filled with stuff. And then covers.
No, the funny thing is my wife has a Mitsubishi Pajero, and that is still old school, no engine cover. You can see everything. It's literally as tractor-like as you can get in the modern day, right? Yeah. It's still a brand new car.
Reliability
but it's built in 30-year-old technology and 30-year-old, methods. So there's literally nothing in that car. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine who drives a Tesla recently rode in the Pajero, and I was thinking to myself, like, this guy probably hasn't seen physical buttons on a radio in like 10 years. So there is no touch screen. There's nothing.
Yeah. Then he was to ask me, what is this slot here for? And he's like, well, that's the cassette deck.
Yes. Yeah. No. It has a CD player. Come on.
Really? Oh,
we're more modern than that.
Oh,
yeah.
No.
Surprisingly.
Not an eight track like the American cars.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it should have an 8-track. No, I wouldn't be surprised. But my first car had cassette player in it.
Of course,
so,
mine do.
And I used to use it to plug the Discman in. You got the tape adapter.
Yes, these adapters.
And,
Yes, of course. You had that as well.
Which was cool.
And then you had these, and then you had some of the tape decks, then they had even auto reverse.
I think
the first ones didn't. You had to swap.
No, the first one did not. Yeah, I remember the auto reverse.
Imagine that.
I remember there was a tape deck that did, it was technically, because auto reverse, you could play a tape two ways, but there was one that like flipped it around and put it back in. I do remember
the viewers that are younger. A 90-minute tape that you had to record your songs on had two sides, 45 minutes on each side. So you had half the tape was on one side, half of the tape, the head would read half of the tape only. So you had to flip it around in your cassette player, unless you had an auto reverse player who would just play it backwards, the same tape.
Yep.
But it was
exactly.
all the reels, the whole tape was from one reel on the other one. Yeah, nobody can imagine what we went to. Recording our mixtape in single speed. You had to wait. If you wanted to record 90 minutes, you were sitting in front of your recorder for 90 minutes. My God.
Yeah.
We had time.
Yeah, it's fun times. Mm. Yeah, of course. And now look at us. We're recording countless. I don't even know how many. This is our 29th, I think, podcast. And each one is roughly an hour long. I mean, that's over a day. We would have sat there recording this and but we still sat here, but transcribing it, putting it onto, internet has made things a little bit easier for us. For
100%. Yeah. So
yes.
Can we conclude summarizing?
How did we get to this? Why are we? Oh yeah. The Opel Kadett with the tape player. That's how we got here. Okay. Got it.
As always, we're going on and off on tangents, but, I really appreciate open casebacks. I'm not saying I miss them when I don't have them, but I would feel, even with Rolex, if you see the current movements that they build, now that we see them on certain watches like the Daytona and like the new Cellini, not Cellini line, what is it called? Perpetual line, the 1908.
1908, 1918?
1908. And we see these movements. They're actually nice to look at.
Yeah, it's ultimately, as I mentioned,
to see them. So it's nothing to hide. Care. Exactly. It's nothing to hide anymore. So I think we will see probably more open casebacks even from Rolex, right? And it's all anti-magnetic stuff in any case. So that's out of the question. You don't need that anymore. So I don't mind. I prefer open casebacks. If I could have a choice, I would probably always choose the open caseback version.
But I do like the ruggedness. Once again, it gives you a feeling of ruggedness to have a closed caseback. So right now, my Explorer, right? I'm looking at it. Okay, like if I were to break this, drop it, whatever, I don't have to worry about the caseback could break. And that is one thing that ultimately.
Never heard of anyone's caseback breaking.
Me neither. But in my mind, it's a possibility.
All right.
Okay. Right. But it gives you a little bit more ruggedness, a little image or illusion of ruggedness, maybe. But ultimately, I don't care. If next generation Rolexes all come out with open casebacks, I'm not going to care.
Okay. And on this bombshell, I am wishing everybody uncracked open casebacks.
Yes,
and
exactly.
having a great time.
Be careful.
Until the next time.
Yes. All right. We'll see you next time. Follow us on Instagram and YouTube and everything.
Lume
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yes, and comment and message us too. Stop saying goodbye. I'm still.
Bye-bye. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Now.